Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drrodo.com.
What is up, and welcome in. We are the One and Done Show. We are your fast break of college basketball information, and we are here with a special off-season edition. I am your host, Eric Romoff. You can catch me on those Twitter streets at FantasyNav, and he is the captain of our ship. He is MC Holland34 on Twitter. He is Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, what it do, my dude? Welcome in.
Yo, great to be back midweek here, and just dropped my first version 1 transfer big board.
How many?
250 players.
Say it with your chest.
That. Yeah, 250. You guys got me to 250. So here we are, man. And a lot of these guys have made their decisions, and we got some late news today. It's just happening pretty much every few hours each day. We're just getting more and more of a look at what these rosters are going to be like, and there's still tons of action to come in the future. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go over to drrodo.com. Check out the big board. Let us know what you think. If I got some guys too high, too low, let us know in the comments too. Put a lot of work in, just collecting all the data, watching a ton of film. Just put in the work, and I'm proud of it. And so, yeah, we'll see. I think 250 is where it's going to stop. But yeah, I'm just excited to share that with everybody.
I'm also excited that you are ready to share it with everybody. I disagree that 250 is where it's going to stop. This is a man that set out with the intention of 100 being on his big board. We've more than doubled it. I think we can continue that pressure and climb it up, maybe to 300, maybe beyond. The best way to do that, hit those like and subscribe buttons. Get in those comments. Not only let him know where he's too high, where he's too low. Let him know you want more. And whenever he gives you more, let him know it's not enough. This man will fold like a cheap tent to public pressure, but we are not here exclusively to lobby for a larger big board. We are here continuing our great American road trip, GSM style, working west to east across this land of ours. We sat down with Russell Turner earlier in this week, and we have another conversation that we're excited to share with you here today. Got to spend a little bit of time with Pacific Tigers head coach Leonard Perry. Let's hear what he has to say about the momentum he's building with his program and his outlook for the years to come for the Tigers.
Coach Perry, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us today. First, we want to congratulate you on nearly doubling your win total in year 2 of your run there at Pacific here. What do you think were the biggest differences between years 1 and 2?
Well, Jay, it takes time. We had the transition so late in the year, the first year, so it was a little unfair to the kids in the sense that they had to get adjusted to a new coach and everything that was turned around. This was in late July, so it happened pretty quick. So it took us a while to try to get our bearings under us, try to get a staff together, and those types of things. So you were doing that on the move, and we weren't able to fill our staff until November 7th. So we were still moving as the season was right upon us. So in fairness to the first year's group, it was a year of getting adjusted. Getting used to each other, even though I'd been around as an assistant, those guys did not really know me as a head coach. So the year ended, we were able to bring in some kids that, our staff had identified and we thought would be good fits for us. And, obviously we had a few bumps as we were working everything out and getting used to each other. But once we hit a stride, it became a lot of fun around here. And I think our fans and students really enjoyed what our guys were able to put out throughout the course of the year. And we were really, really, really close to the 4th seed that haunts us. We had it right there. at LMU. I think we're up maybe 10 with a little over a minute to go, and lost that game, and it cost us the 4th seed. So we made it fun around here. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, seeding definitely matters in that tough WCC tournament. And if nothing else, it's fair to say that, look, you're building a lot of momentum, through 2 years and heading into your third there at Pacific. This isn't your first stint as a Division I head basketball coach. You were at Idaho for a 5-year run in the early 2000s. So I'm kind of curious from your point of view, what were some of the experience or lessons learned that you take from your time at Idaho and have applied here at Pacific?
Well, you have to. At the time, I was the youngest Division I head coach in the country, I believe, and it was my first job. And I didn't anticipate how hard it would be to change conferences like 3 times. Like, I had no idea as a young coach coming in. I knew that, Idaho used to be in the Big Sky. I played there. So I was familiar with that part of it, but I had no idea how much things shift when you change conferences. Everything shifts. We went from the Big Sky to the Sun Belt to the WAC, and not the WAC that it is today. That WAC back then had Paul Mills in it. It had just pro after pro after pro. Fresno State was in the WAC at that time. Nevada, New Mexico State was really, really good. It was a difficult transition. It really was. And then we coincidentally got into the Big West, and I thought it was a better fit. But keep in mind that a guy named Stu Morrill and Utah State were there at the same time as well. And, a guy used to be here, Bob Thomason, had the number 1 pick in the NBA, and Olowokandi. So it was a wild time. And when I got that job, I was under the old 5-and-8 rule. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that, but it was the rule where you could give no more than 5 scholarships in a 2-year period, regardless of how many people you lost. So if you lost 8 guys, you could only give 5 scholarships. So 3 scholarships would just be blowing in the wind. And that was the 5-and-8 rule back then. So that's what we were under. And it was a lot. It was a lot. I didn't anticipate that when I had taken the job. So it took me a long time to get acclimated and used to it. But in spite of it, we had some good years. We were really competitive in the Big West, and had a couple of good runs.
Coach, last year your team made a pretty big jump in 3-point percentage on offense, finishing 9th in the country. Your 3-point defense also improved as well. Is this fundamental to your overall philosophy, something you picked up from your time in your previous stint at Idaho, maybe in your time when you were working with the Pacers in the NBA, a product of something else? Just can you speak to the improvement in the 3-point percentage on offense and defense, and sort of how that plays into your general philosophy as a coach?
Well, what I can tell you is, Jay, it's a part of my philosophy now. I can tell you that. I picked up something from Brad Stevens, and it was the most simple sentence I'd ever heard, but it made the most sense in all of my time. He said, like, if you want guys that can shoot, then go recruit a shooter. If you want guys that can rebound, then go recruit a rebounder. If you want a guy or want guys that can block shots, then go recruit a shot blocker. But don't recruit a shot blocker and then get mad at him because he can't shoot. Don't do that. So we made it a point to get guys that can space the floor. I've always wanted to play that way. Rick Carlisle was a big proponent of spacing the floor when I was with the Pacers. Spent a lot of time with Larry Bird. We talked about how important space was. So being able to space the floor legitimately with 5 guys that could shoot the ball or had the threat of shooting the ball, it changes the game. Now, we were undersized, and we knew that, but we were playing Keelan Boone at the 5, but he really wasn't a 5. And what we would do is, because he was such a good shooter, if you had big guys, traditional bigs, we would put you in twist formation, and we would put you in ghost actions. We would make those bigs run all over the floor, and they couldn't guard our 5s. So it forced teams to take their bigs out of the game. So now your front line looks like our front line. And then we continue to run action to get our play in space and play at a really fast pace, because that gave us our best chance to win. And we liked it. Our fans liked it. Our players really, really liked it. And it's been a great recruiting tool for us. And that's what we did. So we kind of did it out of necessity, but it's a way that I've always wanted to play. And I found it to be a fun style. And moving forward, we'll do as good a job as we can as getting guys at all 5 spots that can space it.
Yeah, watching you guys play, it certainly feels like you're doing the best to accentuate the natural skill sets of the players you have on the court. So it's definitely evident on the court. Coach, I want to zoom out a little bit. We're here, what feels like every night, talking about new players heading into the transfer portal or committing to new schools. Obviously, NIL is a new facet to college basketball over the years, really kind of changed the landscape of the sport. So I want to get from your perspective, what are some of your either lessons learned or kind of overarching approaches to navigating this new landscape in college basketball?
Sure. Well, Eric, at the end of the day, you either adapt or you perish. And you've got to adapt. You can now, don't get me wrong. When I'm talking to my friends that are in the business, yeah, we don't like it. It's not, we don't feel like it's good overall for the game. But if you don't adapt, it's going to pass you right by. So you've got to adapt. You've got to be aware throughout the year of guys that may be, looking for a bigger NIL deal, looking for those opportunities. You just have to constantly, as a staff, be aware of it. And when the season ends, you got to be prepared for it and make sure you're bringing in guys that fit your philosophy and will be a good student, here and fit all the other things that come along with being a student athlete here at Pacific. But you kind of got to look at things like a GM. Guys are on a 1-year or 2-year contract, man. If you're not prepared, and you have a guy opt out, if you will, of his deal, like a guy can in the NBA, then if you're not prepared or you're not thinking forward, you get left behind really quick. It hurts. It bothers you because you put so much time into it, and you develop a guy and you give guys opportunities, but it's just part of it. Now, that being said, in my opinion, I see a lot of mistakes out here. Guys are leaving situations where it just does not make sense. Guys are leaving the national championship team. Where are you going? Where do you go if you won a national championship and you played? Where do you go? I don't know where you're going. So if guys are leaving UConn, guys are leaving everywhere. And it's a part of our landscape. And, for now, we have to understand it and make the best of it and, try and bring in the best possible fits for our specific programs that we can.
Let's focus a little bit now on the guys that are maybe sticking around for you, maybe guys that are going to be here and have bought into your coaching and your teaching, that you've invested that time and energy into. The transfer portal is open until May 11th. Rosters are still sort of in flux.
Yes.
But of the guys you're expecting back, who are some names that you expect to emerge as key players for you next year?
Well, obviously, Maurice Odom is a special kid. He made the all-freshman team. He's fearless. I think he's one of the better guards in our conference coming back. I think he'll have a breakout year next year. I really believe. that he'll be locked in and focused when the season starts. I think Tyler Beard gave us some great moments last year. He was really good. Did some great things for us. Looking for him to come in and do the same as Mo. Greg Outlaw, who's returning, he's a graduate in a rare deal. Could get in the portal, but has opted to come back. He's graduating and he'll come back. We need Greg. He's coming off an ACL injury. Never really got right last year, but really need him to come back and be a really good player for us. Can do a lot of things, can really be a great defender. Need him to be a better rebounder. Donovan Williams started a ton of games for us last year. We need his leadership. We need his toughness defensively. Really played a big role for us last year. He'll be back, and we're looking for big things from him. Nick Blake will be returning. Super talented. I really would like to see him take a step forward on the defensive end because offensively he's as talented as anybody in our league. So he'll be back. And then Judson Martindale's a returning starter, transfer from Holy Cross last year, had great moments for us. I think Judson will bring leadership. I think he'll bring experience, and he'll do a great job for us. And then Mekhi Richardson will be back, 6'10". He'll be big for us, be a sophomore. And I think he learned a lot. He didn't play a lot, but I think he learned a lot. And I think he'll do a good job for us and kind of shore some things up for us on the front line.
Yeah, it sounds like you're expecting a lot of players returning, not only returning, but also to continue to advance in their individual development. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic that you'll carry last year's momentum forward in the year to come. I want to sort of zoom out a little bit, right? We're somehow only a few weeks removed from the national championship game. So technically the off season, we like to joke around here that college basketball never sleeps, but want to know from you, if you have any kind of off-season routines, if there's a vacation you always try to hit or things that you do to sort of recenter and refocus yourself during the off-season, how face the seasons.
Eric, two things I love. I love music. So you'll see me at festivals. You'll see me at concerts. My family is big on music. Last year we did Coachella. It was earth-moving. Just earth-moving. One of the best things we've ever done as a family. Had so much fun. I'll be probably somewhere around Universal Studios. I'm a big movie behind-the-scenes guy.
Okay.
I love to see movies or TV shows that are being filmed or a hot set. If I can stand in the background and kind of watch how all the things are put together and how it's produced and how they make it. And I do all the behind the scenes stuff at Universal Studios. So all of the dry sets where the movies were made, Transformers, all those movies. I love to go back behind the scenes. So those are hobbies of mine. I'm really into it. I've always been into it. So I think the ride at Universal Studios where it goes by Jaws, I've seen Jaws like 100 times. But I go on that ride every time the Jaws comes out of the water. I scream and holler every time. So, yeah, I love movies. I'm a big movie guy. And anytime I can get on, a live set, I like doing that. So I'll be concerts and anything behind the scenes, movie-wise, in Hollywood, anything's going on. If I hear about it, I like to drive down and get on a set. And then my son is a record producer. He's a Media X major here at Pacific, and he performs a lot of hip hop stuff. So my wife and I'll be at his shows.
I saw out at Coachella, there was a lot of controversy around Frank Ocean's set, and I know a lot of people were looking forward to that. And hope that dude's all right, man. I know he's been dealing with some things, and that's a super talented guy that I know I'd like to see. But yeah, down here in the Austin area where we are, we've got the ACL Fest, the Austin City Limits Music Festival down here, and That's a fantastic spot. I don't know if you've been able to make it down here for that, but it's quite because that's right. Usually right when you're in the middle of getting everything fired up for the season. So, but yeah,
I hadn't been able to make it yet, but it's a bucket list. It is a bucket list.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's a great time for sure. Finally, Coach, we'll get you out of here. One more question though. Wanted to bring it back to the program here and sort of ask, what are you most proud of as the head coach of Pacific? Been there a couple of years now. You're starting to, like we started off at the beginning mentioning that, basically doubled your win total from last year. What are you most proud of in your brief stint so far at Pacific? And what should people across the country know about the future of your program, sort of what's to come for Pacific?
That's a good question, Jay. The thing I'm most proud of is the opportunity that I got to be the head basketball coach here at the University of Pacific. These jobs, as you guys know, are impossible to get. It's like winning the lottery. Everything has to fall right for you to get the opportunity. So much appreciative to Janet Lucas and President Callahan for giving me the opportunity. And then getting it under some pretty tough circumstances when we got it. It was so late. I'm so proud of how our staff has just stayed with the process, and we've dug and fought. We were picked dead last in every preseason, everything there was, and I knew from the moment I saw the prediction, I knew we weren't coming in last, and that's not going to happen if I can help it. If I got breath in me, it won't happen. But I'm proud of how our guys stuck with it. We went on a funky stretch there where we lost some games we felt like we really could have won at home. It was a stretch of about 4 or 5 games at home. We lost to a D2 at home. And as you guys know, most times it's a kiss of death when that happens. Guys kind of pack it up and just the season ends up going the other way. And these kids rallied. Our staff rallied. We never flinched. And we kept fighting and battling and fighting and battling. And we put ourselves in a position to do something really special, won a game in the tournament. So I'm most proud about our resiliency and how we kept believing in each other and how we've turned that into culture here in this program. And the thing moving forward for the future, we're going to find a way to get this program to postseason play. We're going to do it. We're committed to doing it. It's a step-by-step process. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, even though we skip a step by win as many as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We want to make the postseason. That's our goal, and we can smell it. And we don't want to take a step backwards, even though this league is one of the best leagues in the country, and it's certainly one of the most well-coached leagues in America. Barring me, it's the best.
Leonard Perry, head coach there for the University of the Pacific. If you are not paying attention to WCC basketball, everything that he just laid out is spot on. It is one of the most fun and competitive conferences across the country. And this is a program on the rise. Something very special is a brewing here at Stockton. So, Coach Perry, really appreciate you taking some time out of your day and sharing your insights.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, man. Thank you, guys. Much obliged. Anytime you need me, I'll be here.
Man, what an awesome interview. A little jealous that I wasn't able to sit in with Coach Perry. He seems very humble. You can tell he's still a student of the game, right? Very methodical in his approach. The whole deal with Brad Stevens telling him, if a guy shoots threes, let him shoot threes and don't ask him to, do things that he can't do. I mean, sometimes I think when we look at these coaches, right, it seems like coaching sometimes you can just simplify it. And it looks like, that's kind of why they were able to make that big jump from year 1 to 2. So, he's definitely a coach that, seems like I would want to play for. He's got a lot of exciting pieces coming back. And, that was just an awesome interview, some insight. Pacific and some of those teams in the WCC are kind of overshadowed by success that Gonzaga and St. Mary's have had as two of the winningest programs in the last 2 decades across the country. So to do what they did and, to come up fifth, almost challenging for that 4 seed there in the WCC tournament, pretty awesome to watch. And you can tell, he's taken a lot of parts from where he's been from his previous stint at Idaho in the early 2000s to being in the NBA, and he's starting to put it all together. So, I think you're right when you say that something soon is going to happen that's pretty special at the Pacific. I think when you think of University of Pacific, you think of Michael Olowokandi really when it comes to basketball, and that's really kind of it. But we've seen some of these coaches take these programs and elevate them. That's how St. Mary's got to where they're at. That's how Gonzaga got to where they're at. It seems like he's off to the right start, and this is just year 3 that he'll be going into. So it's exciting times. What were some of your takeaways?
Yeah, a lot of the same. The thing I would want to underscore is as he was closing out there, I think it was a slip of the tongue. He said that they skipped a couple of steps. I don't think that's the case at all, right? I think that he's laid out a plan and they've been executing that flawlessly. I think what he was driving at is they're ahead of schedule, right? I think that he really feels like they're in the driver's seat and they're seeing the results that he was picturing much sooner than he anticipated, especially given the timing constraints that he was working against in that first season. So definitely really, really enjoyed his company, really appreciated his insights. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll see him at ACL when he comes on down to Austin and connect with him.
Right.
Like, speaking of coming on down to Austin, not seeing a whole lot of guys from the transfer portal making their way to Austin yet. Might be some news breaking, maybe even on tonight's show, if not in the days to come. But Mike, why don't you kick us off with some of the players who have declared where they're heading for the upcoming season?
Yeah, so as we mentioned, dropped our top 250 transfer portal big board, and a bunch of names in the last couple of days have announced their commitments. So we're going to start with 10 guys here, and on the next show, we're going to, add some other guys. So it's, we're doing the piece by piece here. So we'll start with the guys that are inside the top 100. 10 of these gentlemen have made their commitments to where they're going to play next year. And it's going to start with a forward from Nevada. That's a versatile player, Mountain West Freshman of the Year, Darrion Williams. He's 6'6", 210 pounds. The stats aren't, they're not going to jump out at you, but very solid, almost 8 points. Nearly 8 rebounds, 3 assists per game. He's just versatile on both ends, and that was his freshman year. So he's only going to continue to develop. He's a really good passer, and he shot 36% from 3. So he's going to Texas Tech, which is a big get for new head coach Grant McCasland, who is coming over from North Texas after a wonderful season in Conference USA. Obviously, Mark Adams is out the door. And this is a good piece because we know Fardaz Amack is off to Cal. Banner is doing his thing in Portsmouth right now. Missing a bunch of guys from the Tech team last year. Bacho's in the portal. He's in our top 250, but hasn't made a decision. So, this is a really key piece for McCasland. And, he's going to be one of the guys that's going to be featured here for Texas Tech. So, really, really strong pickup. He's number 100 on our transfer portal big board. Who else we got?
Yeah, even 100. And if nothing else, in this transfer portal era, it seems like coaches and programs are able to go out and very specifically target and shop for players that fill voids in their roster. Darrion Williams fits that bill. The next guy up that we have, Jack Clark, the forward from NC State, also fits that bill. He fits that bill for Clemson. He is declared to head over. He's staying in the ACC, but heading over to Clemson. This is a team that has to fill the void of Hunter Tyson graduating, right? So Clark comes in. He's a stretch four. He's got pretty solid size, 6'7", 200 pounds. Last year he put up almost 10 points a game, almost 7 boards, nearly 2 steals per game. So that type of stat line indicates pretty clearly real high level defender, decent handles for his size. We talked about it a few days ago. Point guard Chase Hunter announced that he was returning. So Clemson now gets another piece to go along with him. Jack Clark comes in at number 93 on your big board. And there is a guy right in front of him, number 92, who has also declared his new home. Where's Jordan Gainey heading, Mike?
Yeah, Jordan Gainey, number 92, USC Upstate. He's 6'4", 175, a guard that can really shoot. He's committed to Tennessee. Old Rick Barnes getting himself some offense. So you'd love to see it. Tennessee is probably not done on the 10 guys we were talking about. But Gainey's an underrated player. If you haven't seen him play, it's probably one of the 10 best shooters in the entire transfer portal. Not hyperbole there. Kind of some connections here, right? With Rick Barnes. Gainey's the son of a Tennessee associate head coach. So a little bit of an in there, but we know Tennessee's starving for offense. This is a great piece for them. We know they just got, Vescovi back. So a really nice backcourt pairing here with Vescovi and Gainey. So a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, certainly. So you love to see when we can keep it all in the family, right? So Gainey is there tying off with Pops, the associate head coach. Another fantastic shooter that has declared their destination for the upcoming season. That's Carlos Stewart. He's a 6'1", 185 guard coming out of Santa Clara, about 15 points a game, almost 2 steals per game, 40% from three. So this guy is absolutely lethal from outside. He can really knock him down pretty much at a moment's notice. He's also a native son of Baton Rouge, right? So he's getting a little home cooking heading back there. I mean, just everything that you're looking for in a player like this, right? High energy, big motor, real solid defender, probably a little bit underrated there. I mentioned almost 2 steals per game. That's pretty hard to do. And now all of a sudden, we got a pretty nice little revamp to this roster for Coach McMahon, right? So LSU making a splash by getting Stewart, who is number 80 on the big board.
Yeah, I mentioned LSU. We got to talk about the next guy on the list heading out from LSU, and that's Adam Miller, one of the guys that we were pretty high on here, man. 6'3", 190, two-guard. He's another year removed from the ACL, got to the entire season last year, started his career at Illinois, and then transferred to LSU, sat out the year due to injury, and then came back, had a decent season, 11 points per game, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. And this one's kind of another, this happens a lot in basketball, right? He's headed to play for obviously to play for Bobby Hurley, but on Bobby Hurley's staff is his former high school and AAU coach. So a little bit of an in there, but it's a great fit. With DJ Horn headed out, Austin Nunez headed out from Arizona State. Obviously, some void there to fill for Arizona State. They're going to need scoring. This kid is a scorer. He's someone that could average 16 to 18 points per game now that he's fully removed from that injury. So, Adam Miller, really nice high-level transfer, number 69 on our big board.
Very nice number 69 on the big board. And Adam Miller was a player that we seemingly just couldn't quit. At least I couldn't quit when it came to DFS, right? He is an electric upside player. And last year, it just seemed like he couldn't get his feet underneath him on the way back from injury. Looking forward to seeing what he can do there at ASU with a full offseason removed and presumably heading back to full health. The next player on our big board, we're going to stick with the guard category here. That's Jared Bynum, 5'10", 180 pounds out of Providence last year, and even 10 points per game, 2.5 boards, 4.5 assists. So can contribute in a number of different ways. And Bynum is heading all the way across the country from Providence over to Stanford. So huge get for the Cardinal here. Bynum brings leadership, that 10 points I mentioned. Seemed like he was the type of player that would get hot for a few games and really drop some big scores. And if nothing else, brings playmaking ability to the point guard position. And all of a sudden, Coach Ase here has got a 5-star coming in with Stojakovic. They retained their leading scorer with Spencer Jones. So Bynum steps into a Stanford team that is, maybe a sleeper to at least make a bit of noise in the Pac-12, certainly advance their position from last season. And he comes in as the number 64 player on Mike's big board.
Yeah, you gotta like the 1 through 3 there. Projected starters. Bynum at the 1, Stojakovic playing the 2, and then you'd look at Spencer Jones playing the 3. Like that's pretty solid for a Pac-12 that's going to be wide open. So let's slide over to the next guy on our board here. That's Andrew Rhode, the guard from St. Thomas, more of a wing. He's 6'6", 185. Great freshman year for St. Thomas. Averaged 17 points per game, almost 4 assists. He's a decent playmaker, 1.7 steals per game. I mean, what can you say? It's just an explosive freshman year. He's a legit outside shooter. So him and McNeely next year, really going to give Virginia some much needed firepower from 3. So both of them going into their second year should be legitimately ready to contribute heavy minutes for this Cavalier squad. And he's just a really, really good, solid player. Great IQ, number 59 on our big board. So it'll be interesting to see how he makes the transition from St. Thomas to Virginia. But, you pop on the tape and you watch this kid shoot. And, we know he's going to be able to do some things.
Yeah, it certainly seems like he has the type of game that should transition over nicely. We're going to jump from Rhode, the number 59 player, up to the number 30 player on your board. And this is a player that's jumping up from the Ivy League to the ranks of the high majors, and that's Chris Ledlum. 6'6", 230-pound forward out of Harvard. I mean, he completely dominated the Ivy League last year. Almost 19 points, 8.5 boards, nearly 2 swipes per game. And he is heading, yet again, you see that bright orange tee on our graphic, to Tennessee to hook up with your guy, Rick Barnes. So Barnes is really picking up some momentum here in the portal. Like I mentioned, and like we talked about with what we talk about with a lot of these kind of mid or lower mid-major players making the jump up. Curious to see how his game translates. Obviously he can score at will in the Ivy League. I think Barnes will call on him to do a bit more scoring for the Volunteers, which woefully lacked that last season. There's questions about his outside shooting and his size, right? 6'6" and 230 is a little undersized for a 4, but I mean, we talked about Gainey coming in. You talked about him when in the context of the news of Vescovi. Now all of a sudden Rick Barnes is at least getting the type of pieces that you want to address the areas that were kind of question marks and held this team back last season.
Yeah, I liked what's being built there in Tennessee. Yeah, well, we have to see it on the floor though. So these are 2 really good offensive players, and Vescovi is a solid offensive player. So yeah, maybe we'll see some games in the 60s and 70s more often than not. But that's we'll see. There's still a long way to go from that. Let's move over to our next player here that made his decision, Stephen Ashworth. A point guard from Utah State, 6'1", 170, averaged 16 points, 3 boards, almost 5 assists a game. And he's committed to Creighton. So an excellent get for Coach McDermott. I mean, we know that Nembhard, who is ranked number 2 on our overall board, is out the door. And, how do you fill this? Well, you fill it with our number 28 player. And I actually think this might be a better fit for this particular Creighton team. This kid is lights out shooting the ball. I believe he shot close to 43% from 3 last year. He can play on and off the ball. Obviously Nembhard's our number 2 player. That he's more of a floor general. Get guys in position to score. Just going to run your offense, where Ashworth can give you a little more pop from the outside. You have Baylor Shireman that announced that he's returning. They're going to be a fun combination of a duo to come back. We'll see what happens with Kaluma. We'll see what happens with Trey Alexander. But if both of those guys come back, then you're going to be looking at some real solid 3-point shooting for Creighton last year, which at some points was a little bit of a struggle last year for them. I'm excited. This is actually a really, really nice fit. There was some thought that he would go to Gonzaga, but looking forward to see Ashworth and just how he's going to fit, especially if all the pieces come back for Creighton. They should be in another great position to make a Final Four.
Yeah, well positioned for that. Very likely to be among the favorites for a very low number next to their name to start the season. We talked about it a little bit with Coach Perry in terms of putting guys in roles that fit their natural strengths. It feels like with Ashworth, it's a little bit more of a clear picture, right? There were times last year for Creighton where it felt like they were kind of stepping on each other's toes a little bit. So he comes in and he can play a very well-defined role for them, and it should be something that, adds up to an even more lethal attack for those Blue Jays. Last player on the big board, number 21 overall. This is news that broke just a couple of hours ago. That is Nicholas Timberlake, the guard out of Towson, 6'4" senior, has now jumped onto the Rock Chalk bandwagon. I mean, the rich get richer, right? Kansas is continuing to look like they're going to have another stacked roster heading into the upcoming season. Timberlake comes in as a big time scorer, almost 18 points a game. He can chip, he can dip, 4 boards, 2.5 assists per game, right? So he can add into those secondary stats as well. And Timberlake is another one of those players, when he announced that he was going in the portal, had a never-ending scroll of teams that were interested in him and that were on his radar as a place to land, but ultimately goes with the blue blood, with the Jayhawks. And look, every program was interested in him for a reason, right? The type of scoring that he can do, the size that he brings as a guard are things that programs look for. And if nothing else, he's heading into his senior season, but I mean, he has just gotten better year over year, right? So plenty of programs are going to want him for the player that he has been, but if past his prologue, this is also a player that should continue to take a step forward in the season to come. That does it for tonight's update, a little 10-pack of players that have declared for their new school. Mike, before we get out of here, any closing thoughts on the guys that we talked about? Anybody want to double click on, or if not, any thoughts about some of the things that we're going to cover as soon as tomorrow when we're back live?
Yeah, no, I think we're starting to see some rosters take shape. Obviously, we need to see what happens with the NBA. Zach Edey declared, but he's maintaining eligibility. We'll see what happens with Sheboy. It feels like a lot of these bigs, like those type of players, are going to come back, right? We already see Baycott. He's announced that he's coming back. There's probably more opportunity to make more money coming back as a traditional big. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to see these rosters take shape. And we have until May 11th, and that's still 22 days or so away from the transfer portal window when you can jump or jump back out. It's still going to be some names that have piled in here. Trey White from USC jumped in today. He's a solid player. Someone that's probably going to make our top 250 board when it gets updated. Working on an update for next week, and then obviously we'll be right back with you guys tomorrow. We'll we're going to circle back. We'll do some more guys that have jumped into the commitment list here for some teams outside of the top 100 on our big board. We'll take a look at some teams that are really crushing. Guys, there's teams out there with 4 or 5 commits right now. And then we'll take a look at some guys that are maybe down transferring us per se, that are going to come from the Power 5, Power 6 ranks down into the mid-major ranks, and kind of profile what that does for those teams. So yeah, we got a lot coming, man. It doesn't stop, and I'm excited to keep this train going.
Yeah, tonight was obviously our conversation with Coach Perry, and we closed out with kind of a higher level overview, right? Just 10 guys inside the top 100. Tomorrow, we're getting down into the nitty-gritty, right? Talking about how these teams are starting to come together. Some of those winners of the portal, right? You saw Rick Barnes in that orange tee on our graphic twice tonight. We've talked about guys like Coach Golden, like the great importer Eric Musselman, like Huggy Bear drawing people to West Virginia by hook or by crook, right? So really want to spend a bit more time with how these guys fit into their programs and how some coaches are approaching the portal overall. So we'll be back live tomorrow night to go into all of that detail. Mike mentioned it off the top, but his top 250 board is live over at drroto.com. So a lot of these names have already declared, but still plenty of talent that haven't chosen their new home quite yet. So get over to drroto.com, get yourself subscribed, and check out that big board. And as you're watching this on the replay, or as you're with us tomorrow night, get up in those comments. 1, continue to put pressure on this man. He will fold. He will get to 300 at least. And 2, let us know what you think about that big board. Some of the guys that maybe haven't committed yet, where you'd like to see them go, or where you would predict to see them go. Love to keep the conversation going with you guys in the chat. So get over to drroto.com, check out that big board, subscribe to us on YouTube, Let us know how you're feeling in the chat. Let's get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drrodo.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.